His career is hoping to further elevate. Jake is a really nice lad, actually, as well.
He is. I was asking him yesterday after the second race whether the improvement in his pace is because it's with a different team or it's just more experience in the car. And we have on the grid Camara not getting away. He gets away now and didn't drop to the back, so he'll be okay to take his grid position. And Jake Dennis was saying it is a bit more experience, that's true, but Prema has a different way of working, and it is very much a top team. Carlin is perhaps a top British F3 team. And last year proved that it could run up there in the FIA Championship, but Prema just operates in a different way, and you add all these different factors together. One interesting thing he did say is that there's so little to choose between the Mercedes and Volkswagen engines. They
really?
are so similar. Yeah,
I know when I spoke to Jake, a few weeks ago, he mirrored what you're saying. He was very, very comfortable in Prema Power Team.
Now we've got dramas here on the grid, and that's a car that's going to have to start from the pit lane. It is Matt Solomon, is it not? In the R racing car. If you have to be pushed, you have to be pushed off the grid and start from the pit lane. If you get going and start with everybody else, you get a penalty. We've seen that before. So Solomon here needs to be off the grid, and I'm looking to see where the gate is. It's halfway up the pit straight, so these marshals have got a bit more pushing yet. And although this looks fairly flat, there is an incline. The road does head uphill, and three of them have bailed.
Given up.
Yeah, they've had enough. So Matt Solomon's car is almost there. It's just going past our commentary booth window now, and in 4 more Pratt purchase time, there is a 90 right into the pit lane. Let's just recap the way they line up. Jake Dennis on pole, Mikkel Jensen with him at the front of the grid, Pommer, Rosenqvist, Camara, Maisano, Illett ahead of Boccolacci, Leclerc and Argenmini in the top 10, and already there is a black and white driving standards flag to Antonio Giovinazzi.
So there you can see the starting order in graphics for you on screen. As the cars are on their warm-up lap, we can see the stranded car has made it into the pit lane. So that will be starting from the pit lane. The order all playing out there on screen for you. So black and white flag to car number 3, Antonio Giovinazzi. Infringement of Article 37.6. The learned colleagues alongside me are researching Article 37.6 as we speak. David Addison, co-voice, and Marcus Simmons, who from Autosport magazine.
There is only Article 37 in the sporting
regulations. There's not a point 6.
There isn't a point 6. So the plot is thickening here. I'll get back to you on this, caller.
Very good. Very good.
However, it's only a driving standards flag. It is no more of a penalty than that for now. It may have been the urgency with which Antonio Giovinazzi took off the line, but we will see. Instead, let us look forward to what we hope is going to be a cracking race. Race 1 yesterday proved Spa Formula 3 at its best. There was lots of overtaking, there was lots of slipstreaming, and the race director Sven Stopper did say to the drivers yesterday, really pleased with how race 1 went, more of the same please. So let's for the moment forget about race 2. You can find it on YouTube if you want to look at it all over again, and let's hope that we're going to have lots of good racing and good clean overtaking. There is Matt Solomon, who will start from the pit lane. There are 30 cars for this race, and he would have started 25th, so he's not going to lose a huge amount. And actually, dare one say, it might be better to be at the back of the pack going into La Source than in it, because as we have seen hitherto, it can all get a little bit tight at times. So it is the British driver Jake Dennis for the Italian Prema Power Team on pole position. He carries the colours of Racing Steps Foundation. Mercedes Power in the back. Muka Motorsport alongside. Mercedes motivated as well for the Dane Mikkel Jensen, last year's ADAC Formula Masters champion. And there is Jake Dennis, visor up, just gets a little bit of air into the crash helmet. The rest of the field form up as soon as Sam McLeod is at the back, and Sam is at the back because he was excluded from qualifying for having a crack in the air intake, and therefore the car was delivering too much power. As soon as he's in place, we'll be good to go. There'll be a green flag shown by the marshal. Down the pit lane has just come Kang Ling, and that is because the regulations dictate that he must start from the pit lane because he caused a collision yesterday at the bus stop. The penalty for that is that he's got to start from the pit road. Right. You all ready? Let's take a deep breath. Green flag is waved. It's round 15 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. There are 5 red lights. We are go! Great start is made from the outside of the front row by Mikkel Jensen, and he's level with Jake Dennis. He's going to try and cut across, and he does so. Jensen takes the race lead on the run down to La Source. Jake Dennis gets mugged for his second place, but Marcus Pommer runs wide, and so Jake gets it back, and there's contact, there's a spin. Giovinazzi, I fear, is facing the wrong way. There's another one involved in that as well as the cars go downhill. It is Santino Ferrucci, who was the mucker driver involved in all of that. They head through Eau Rouge for the first time, and it is Mikkel Jensen leading Jake Dennis, and he's been able to pull quite a gap already, but now the slipstream will start to tell, and if you're in the draft, you're going to be able to make progress on the run up towards Les Combes. Everybody safely up Radion onto the Camel Straight for the first time. Charles Leclerc, number 7, is one of those looking to try to gain ground against Camara. He's got Boccolacci behind him. Look for 4th. On the inside is Camara. On the outside, it is Leclerc. He can't find a way through, but Boccolacci tries to go around the outside of Charles Leclerc, and he does so! Fantastic move by Boccolacci. Found the grip on the outside line there, and Dorian Boccolacci takes up the place. Good move, definitely. Heading downhill, up the inside comes Charles Leclerc. He's trying to defend now from Brandon Maisano, who's on the outside line at Bruxelles, and exactly the same thing is going to happen. Maisano will try and find a bit more traction, and look, he's got his nose in front and he's gained the place. Charles Leclerc at this rate is going to have flies on the back of his crash helmet. He's going backwards in a big hurry.
And he was one that dived through the middle of the pack and looked to have a reasonable start. We'll see a replay of the start shortly, but you're absolutely right, going backwards at the moment.
We've also got, in the pit lane, strangely, Marcus Poler as the leader runs way wide out of Pouhon there. Mikkel Jensen ran off the circuit. That proves the use and the safety tarmac there, because he was able to just get back onto the circuit rather than have a huge off. And so what it does mean is that the lead gap has come down, because Jensen lost momentum while he was sorting out the moment, and that's been a real gift to Jake Dennis, because it's brought him right back into the mix, hasn't it?
So Jake Dennis then will try and advantage himself of that opportunity, but suddenly seems to have dropped back a little bit as well. So following that slingshot that Mikkel Jensen was able to get off of that runoff area.
So here they come then up towards the end of lap number 1. And as they do so, the race leaders, not quite nose to tail, because Mikkel Jensen just edges away ever so slightly as they work their way down to the bus stop. Tatiana Calderon there defending and actually going around the outside of George Russell in the Sister Blue Carling car. Good move by Tatiana, that, as they work their way now. Then up towards the end of lap number 1. The leader is Mikkel Jensen. In second place is Jake Dennis. Third is Marcus Pommer staying with them. Fourth is Sergio Sette Camara. Fifth is Boccolacci. Sixth is Leclerc. And then it's game on for 7th, as up the inside goes Callum Illett. In the middle is Brandon Maisano. And there is Matt Rao with them as well there. In 9th place was Illett, but now Felix Rosenqvist in 10th position is one to watch. And there's drama as Arjun Minor gets tipped airborne. It's a Westtech car that was with him. That's Fabian Schiller, isn't it? Who's got broken suspension, and Arjun Minor is facing the wrong way. Not convinced that we're going to get away with this without an interruption, but let's have a look at it. Minor just ran too deep into the corner, and then he tried to cut across, and it was 3 into 1. And it's the Westtech car that comes off worse. So it's a yellow flag zone for the moment. Have a look from another angle. Arjun Minor gets airborne. And no, I tell you a lie, it was Raoul Hyman's Westtech car that got involved. It was Raoul Hyman. So it's Hyman who is out of the race. We have a look here at Dorian Boccolacci going around the outside of Camara, and they make contact at Les Combes, and off they slide. And that's going to drop both of them down the order. Matt Rao goes up the escape road. And real heart-in-mouth stuff as everybody else tries to go for the gaps there. But that's helped Charles Leclerc. The incident between Miney and Hyman is under investigation. Right, that's a lap and a third done. And it's all action, isn't it? And we've got more spins coming out of Eau Rouge. That's Julio Moreno getting it wrong. The Ecuadorian has a 360-degree spin. Drops it down a couple of gears and fires off again. There's Raoul Hyman. Now he's on the outside of the road at La Source. Can the car be dragged out of harm's way from there, or are we going to need an interruption? So the race leaders then running together. This is the next battle to keep an eye to. Matt Rao versus Tatiana Calderon, who, remember, had a 5th place here last year, and she's just gained another spot. Tatiana going great guns.
Absolutely. Tatiana Calderon doing a great job there. Another incident under investigation between cars number 38 and 29. That is Raul Hyman and Arjumani.
And the Hyman-Marni incident is a racing accident, and the safety car is being deployed. We have it on the timing screen that the safety car will be brought out just so the officials can swiftly move Hyman's car out of the way. There it is at the exit of La Source. The safety car will scoop them all up, and this will bring, of course, the gaps right down between Mikkel Jensen, Jake Dennis, Marcus Pommer. It's going to help those that are fourth and back, won't it? Because they've already lost a chunk of time, but now they'll all bunch up again.
Well, for my money, Mikkel Jensen's car seems to be superior to that of Jake Dennis, that's for sure. Because even when Jake Dennis was able to get right on the back of it, Mikkel Jensen was able to pull away again, wasn't he, and gap him.
But this, in a sense, is a little bit similar by way of track conditions to race one yesterday morning, as in it's a slightly damp track, but it is drying, and therefore it's a gamble on what setup to go. Do you go with the wet, do you go with the dry, do you go with it in between that might start to lose its edge as the road dries out?
Fair point.
And I think some of that might just be down to how much wing the teams have gone for, given that they've got to get the car set up right for these changing for the better conditions. Replay of the start. Jensen's getaway was absolutely fabulous, wasn't it? He was away like a scalded cat, turns his way out of La Source, but in mid-pack it all went wrong. Now, which was the Cardin car? It was Tveter, not Giovinazzi, apologies, I called that wrong on the first lap. It was Ryan Tveter that was in the spin. So Giovinazzi runs 12th at the moment, but out of the points. Really impressive start that by Jensen. From a length back as well, was able to really get the drop on Jake Dennis on the run into the first corner, and Tveter on the curb. Ferrucci's spin, I think, was independent, wasn't it, actually? I'm not sure he got tagged into that. He was wrong as well. So Santino, who was second in yesterday's second race, gets going again. And Ryan Tveter, with two Americans getting together there, rejoining. Another scatter in avoidance. So safety car on track, and with the road being damp, this I suspect is going to take us closer to the allotted time for the race. This was the continuation of the start. See coming out of La Source just how much of a gap Mikkel Jensen had pulled over Jake Dennis, and there is a drive-through penalty being given for Sergio Satti Camara for pushing another car, which was Boccolacci, wasn't it, up at Les Combes. So Camara gets a drive-through penalty. It was said to the drivers at this meeting last night, we don't want to give you penalties if we can avoid it, but if you are going to do odd things, then we need to look at this. Felix Rosenqvist is under investigation for a potential jump start.
Felix Rosenqvist down there, P10, so...
It didn't help him, but part of that, I think, was that he went, he stopped, and then he went, and if you're outside your grid box, it's a false start.
Yeah.
If you're over the line, you're not where you should be. And so that is why he's also dropped down the order. The safety car is in this lap. It was a brief interlude just while Raul Hyman's car was moved out of harm's way at La Source, so we'll go back to racing this time around.
All bunched back up together again. And
do I need to say it?
One of your favourite expressions is...
Safety cars breed safety cars. Tatiana Calderon, incidentally, is up into 5th place, mirroring the best ever from here last year. If we had the Spa Formula 3 Championship, Tatiana, I think, would have some really good results, but it's the one visit here. And started 27th on the grid. Yes, I mean, remarkable progress. This is the drive of the weekend, isn't it? So, fingers crossed that Tatiana can hang on in there, because we've only done 2 laps. There's a long way to go yet. And she does, in due deference, get herself in strife on occasions, but let's hope this is a good result. So, let's go racing once more. As out of the bus stop they come. They can't go racing until they get to the timing line, which they approach now. Mikkel Jensen versus Jake Dennis. And look, Marcus Pommer, like yesterday on a restart, when he lost a huge amount of time, is slow away again now. So he's already a second back as the race gets underway. And that compromises those behind, namely Leclerc, Calderon. And then in 6th place, Matt Rao, who's in exalted company as well. And Alessio Lorandi having a big moment. Right, that's it. Avoids the barrier. He's on the run-off tarmac. That's Camara serving the drive-through for pushing another car, and you can see that the wing is a little bit skew-whiff. It's all droopy on the left-hand side, a legacy of the contact with Boccolacci. That's the witness mark to it. Right, 13 laps to run. Uphill they go. Is Jake Dennis close enough in the slipstream to be able to make a move on the run to Les Combes? But the answer is no. This is the wetter part of the road as well, and we saw in an earlier race today as Jensen gets it wrong that the spray hangs in the air. That's the leader going off the road and back on. Mikkel Jensen keeps his lead. And there's all drama in the background as well, because Callum Illett has gone off the road, Matt Rao has gone off the road. There are more of them doing bizarre things, one of which is... oh, no. Sam McLeod goes around, Albon goes around. Mayhem coming out of Le Combe. We're not done yet, as they all have to fish away around the parked car. Crikey, now there's gravel all over the road as well. That's going to help. And I'm still trying to work out who it was that caused all that by going off at the escape road. We're going to replay in a moment as now Sam McLeod gets forced off the circuit. Crikey. Nabil Jaffrey he's now battling with. Felix Rosenqvist, incidentally, no further action for that potential jump start. So with everybody all bunched up behind the safety car, there is more shuffling. Kang Ling, remember, who had to start from the pit lane after yesterday's indiscretion, is up into 19th place. So McLeod and Albon get themselves together and both rotate. Still trying to identify the other car that goes through the gravel there. It's Chow, isn't it? Yes, Hongwei Chow, Martin Chow, who had been up the escape road at Le Combe and takes evasive action. Prema takes a collective deep breath. Any of our cars? No, let's not worry then. And this is Arjun Maini having more strife with Nabil Jaffrey, interlocking wheels, both scampering wide. Arjun Maini, who's already had a spin off the road and back on again, and there's now a meatball flag being shown to Sergio Sette Camara because of his droopy wing. So his race is going from bad to worse. He was third yesterday in race 2, his best finish of the year. Right, here come the leaders, back to the plot at the front of the field. It is Mikkel Jensen ahead of Jake Dennis, and the gap between them and Marcus Palmer is coming down. In 4th place now, it is Tatiana Calderon, who has gone ahead of the championship leader, Charles Leclerc. And the way that Tatiana is going, she's not done yet. The setup that Carlin have got on that car is absolutely fabulous.
Absolutely, it's clearly the one, isn't it?
Storming. She's done the best lap of the race as well. A 2:31.1. Tatiana Calderon not only is 4th, not only is catching, but she is the fastest driver out there. So, lap 5 we are on. Off the road has gone Nabil Jaffrey. Now, most of them, if not all, are on slicks. There you see Jaffrey getting it wrong under braking for La Source and skating up the escape road. Just wondering whether it's more than just set up on Tatiana Calderon's car and whether she's on wet tyres. But I wouldn't have thought that it was wet enough for them to work. But we'll try and have a look when we get a close shot of that car. There's a drive-through penalty now, for Nabil Jaffrey, who you've just seen spinning for pushing another car, which was Arjun Maini at Le Combe. And off the road has gone the leader. Mikkel Jensen is in the wall. That's up at Le Combe. That looks like he's got broken suspension. And it was because he was battling with Jake Dennis, who got it wrong under braking. He went round the outside. Was there contact? There was. There's just a brush as Jensen tried to go back round the outside, and off he clatters into the wall. Now, is there going to be anything to come out of that? I would say that was a racing incident, but there was just slight contact between the two, enough to unsettle Mikkel Jensen. It's done the rear suspension, it's done the rear wing. And Tatiana Calderon is up into the top 3 now, and is on wet tyres. So the danger is that as the road dries out, that car is going to fall back because the wets are going to lose their advantage as the race goes on. But it is wet tyres. Right, there's Mikkel Jensen. Very, very frustrated.
Yes, absolutely. Now, has that done anything to the Jake Dennis car as well? It was only a glancing blow, wasn't it? But Jake Dennis now in the lead, but has that little brush with Mikkel Jensen, who we see out of the race. He was the race leader. Has that done anything to the Dennis car? And thank you. We have got to the bottom of the Tatiana Calderon domination that we're seeing.
She needs more rain, I'm afraid, and this is the weekend that got away from Mikkel Jensen, because yesterday, of course, from pole position, he was involved in the skirmish, and we've got Tatiana in the lead, coming out of the bus stop. So, over the timing line, Tatiana Calderon leads the race. We've never said it in Formula 3 European Championship before. You can say it today. Race leader Tatiana Calderon at La Source, but she goes wide. Jake Dennis second, tries to fight back. Palmer is third. Charles Leclerc fourth, but Tatiana Calderon on the wet tyres then leads the way as they plunge downhill. She's got to go for the wetter parts of the road now to keep them cool, and this is going to be a really long 11 laps, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. What Tatiana Calderon really needs now is a shower, isn't
it? Absolutely. More rain is needed as the cars work their way now up towards Les Combes, but Marcus Palmer is on the move to get up alongside Jake Dennis, who's in the middle, and Charles Leclerc waiting to see what happens. Calderon goes backwards. Jake Dennis takes over the race lead. Palmer on the outside line wants second place here. On the outside line, there should be more grip. Can he get his nose in front of Calderon? Yes, and then no, because Calderon's got the grip and fights back. Dennis leads the way. Calderon second then. Third is Palmer. Fourth is Charles Leclerc as they work their way out of Les Combes, down towards Bruxelles this time, and again Tatiana Calderon has a look, but this is interesting that a slick shod car has been able to get back ahead of a wet shod car, and now they're side by side.
But Tatiana Calderon fights back, look, and Tatiana Calderon is going to get that lead back. This is brilliant stuff from Tatiana Calderon, who's driving that car with wet weather tyres. Jake Dennis on slick tyres, P2. But Jake Dennis isn't done yet. He's going to fight back as well. But what Tatiana Calderon needs to do, as you say, is to find the wettest part of the circuit, but get ahead as well.
See, what the rest may not know is that Calderon is on the wet tyres. They might get an impression of that because of the lines that she's taking, but Jake Dennis, if he's really savvy about this, and if Prema can get the message across, will know that the track conditions should come to him late in the race. What Tatiana Calderon is trying to do is build up as big an advantage as possible, and of course somewhere there'll be a rain dance going on at the Carlin element of the pit lane, but you can see the way now she's getting away. The question is whether the gap that she can build up is going to be big enough before the track conditions change.
Because that superiority isn't going to last for very long, is it? The way the track is drying out at the moment.
Now, Felix Rosenqvist has done the fastest lap of the race. He's in 7th spot, and he's working his way back into the mix. This is brave stuff. Tvita, Lorandi and Max Günther all diving 3 abreast into Eau Rouge, and they all come out the other side. And a lock-up here for Mafia Raghunathan at La Source, and he locks it up. He slides straight towards the runoff, gets it round the corner safely. Leaders through into La Source. Tatiana Calderon is back in the lead, but look, the gap has come right down again.
Absolutely, just not able to build up that comfort that she needs between herself and Jake Dennis. Jake Dennis once again lines up Tatiana Calderon. Tatiana Calderon running on wet weather tyres, then Jake Dennis on slicks.
The road is definitely dry because George Russell has just done the fastest lap at 2:27. Now the leaders are doing 2:30s and 2:29s, depending on which one you look at. But further back in the pack, George Russell, who is in 10th place, is the quickest man on the circuit. It's time for another deep breath. Jake Dennis goes back into the lead. Leclerc comes up on the outside of Palmer. Calderon tries to defend and then also get the lead back again on this, the wetter part of the road, and the wet tyres work, and Calderon retakes the advantage. Runs deep, touches the curb. Leclerc up to 3rd now at the expense of Palmer. This is a battle that is going to run and run and run, and it's fabulous Formula 3 racing. And look, because that part of the circuit is so much wetter, look at the gap Calderon has coming out of Les Combes.
And that's where she has that superiority, isn't it? Purely because she's able to run on track conditions which are really suiting us. Off goes, that's Matt Rao. And the nose cone has gone into the barriers there. So that number 14 car out.
That's at Les Combes, isn't it? Up the escape road. Can that stay there, or is that going to be another safety car to get it out of the way? The marshal's run over. How did he get there? Let's have a look. Where do you look? Because there's so much going on in that shot. Any minute now. Yes, big contact. And there were 2 cars involved in that. Fabian Schiller was the other for Westech. Here it comes. He rides over the back of Schiller. And actually, it's not going to be a safety car just to get that out of the way, I would suggest, because there's enough debris on the road.
Yeah.
I would have thought to merit a safety car to sweep that out of the way. We'll wait and see what Sven Stopper, the race director, does in a moment. Schiller was up the escape road as well, but all those shards of bodywork on the road, I would think, was enough to require an interruption just to sweep the circuit. But at the moment, not getting any indication of a safety car, so we will keep you posted. Incident between those 2 cars under investigation. They're both up the escape road though, but hopefully there's not too much on the road. As I say, because for the moment at least there's no indication that we're going to have a safety car to need the circuit to be swept of anything nasty. Right, Tatiana Calderon is on lap 7 and leads the race in what is another extraordinary race this weekend at Spa. Over the timing line they come. It's Calderon from Dennis, from Charles Leclerc, the championship leader, remember.
She is searching for the damp stuff, isn't she? And as this race goes on, I fear the advantage that Tatiana has with those wet weather tyres is going to go away. And look at the different lines that they're taking down there. And that's purely because Tatiana Calderon with those wet weather tyres. There's Jake Dennis lining her up once again, and this is where all the action has been for all the right and wrong reasons as they head up towards this comp.
Here they go, side by side once more, but it's a yellow flag zone, and Jake Dennis there tries to get his nose in front, but I have a horrible feeling that that was after the yellow flag, because you can see where it was being waved midway down the Camel Straight. Oh, Jake Dennis has got the race lead, but I'm a little bit concerned about that because of the way they came up the hill. You could excuse Jake for not seeing it if he was in the draft, but that, for my money, was just a little bit touch and go, and we'll see if anything comes out of that. But either way, we have had a change for the race lead, and Calderon there tries to fight back.
So there is Jake Dennis, who now has got the lead. Now we wait to see if we get any messages on our timing screen with regards to that. Tatiana Calderon, and now Jake Dennis does seem to be able to just pull away a little bit from Tatiana Calderon, but this of course is on a section of the circuit which is not perhaps as damp as some others.
Look at the way also that Tatiana Calderon's car is starting to slide a little bit now, which does suggest that the tyres are overheating because the road at the majority of the circuit is getting drier, and it does start to feel as though the advantage may be ebbing away. But having said that, her last lap was a personal best. So last time around there was still enough advantage within the tyres on the track surface, but it is going to start to change. We need to keep an eye on her lap times relative to the others.
Well, I'm sure you will. George Russell running in P8. Takes me back to Nürburgring last year when, who was it that had just got wet weather tyres on as opposed to anybody else and blitzed the field? It was Spike Goddard.
And he led by a country mile and ended up a lap down, didn't he? Because by the time the road had dried out, he was a sitting target for everybody else. Calderon runs wide at Blanchimont. Charles Leclerc up to second. Here comes Pommer, look. And Tatiana is not only going to drop back another spot if she's not careful, but have a look at the next gaggle. Rosenqvist and Giovinazzi and Callum Illett are all joining in as well. So there are more battles still to come as they head over the timing line. 8 done. 8 to go, 13 and a half minutes are still on the clock, but Jake Dennis now has an advantage over Charles Leclerc of 1.6 seconds, and Tatiana Calderon's lap was a 2:28 last time. It does suggest that the advantage is going away. I know she ran wide and will have lost a bit of time that way, but everybody else has just done a personal best lap within the leading 10 apart from Tatiana. I think we've now got to that tipping point.
I think you're right.
Slick's the way to go. Look, another place is about to be lost. That's Giovinazzi off the road. The advantage that the slicks have, enough to really power him up the hill. And as they head now towards Les Combes, Tatiana Calderon is dropping back. But have a look at Rosenqvist, because he's arrived now on the back of Pommer for third place. On the outside line is Rosenqvist, and he gets a little nudge. Felix Rosenqvist shakes his fist at Pommer because he's been fired off the road twice there this weekend. They touch, they survive. Felix Rosenqvist right on the back of Pommer now for third place. In fifth, it is Callum Illett. Sixth is Giovinazzi.
And again!
Yeah, seventh is Calderon falling away. And Pommer is going to end up in hot water for this if he's not careful. Rosenqvist looking for a way past him. Pommer is under investigation for the defensive driving. Rosenqvist now has Callum Illett right on his tail as well. Illett for Carlin, but he's on slicks as opposed to Tatiana Calderon, who's about to be overtaken by teammate George Russell. So Calderon's moments of glory have come to an end because now the road is very, very much all about slick tyres. So, a drive-through penalty, sorry Dave, for Marcus Pommer for a dangerous manoeuvre. And a big slide by Felix Rosenqvist.
Yeah, he was getting very, very frustrated, wasn't he? And arguably correctly so. So, drive-through penalty for car number 34 then. Felix Rosenqvist still stuck behind that Pommer car. Race being led by Jake Dennis. Leclerc P2, but we're watching this battle at the moment, and what a battle that rages as well.
Now, Felix Rosenqvist is somebody who needs points out of this race. Don't forget, he was down in 10th early on.
Yes.
So it's been another good drive by Felix, who is so experienced in a Formula 3 car. You have to factor that in as well, compared to some like Charles Leclerc, who locks up there in his first year in F3. And Callum Illett dives up the inside out of nowhere. He's got past one, he's got past two, he's gone straight on. He skips back onto the road, but he's gained 2 places. He's slow rejoining, so any advantage is negated as back ahead of him goes Pommer, goes Rosenqvist, and he loses out to Giovinazzi as well. Wow. Spa and Formula 3 are fabulous. Mix and Rosenqvist gets tipped into a spin, and it's Pommer. Giovinazzi goes past the pair of them. Calderon is in the pits to go onto slick tyres, and Rosenqvist's weekend of woe continues. Pommer has already got a drive-through penalty hanging over him in this Damocletian way, and now there's more contact and Rosenqvist ends up the casualty.
I'd like to see that again because I'm not sure.
Your wish is granted. This is the replay. Rosenqvist on the outside. I don't think it was deliberate, in fairness. I think it was just the two differing lines were going to meet in the middle, but that is an incident that's under investigation.
But whatever. It's ruined Felix Rosenqvist's, you know, as you say, his weekend of woe.
Look, Pommer locks up. That was the reason. He did drift wide, and it was a lock-up that slithered him on that line to make contact with Rosenqvist. Yeah, there's more evidence from that last shot, so that kind of explains it. Now, whether you would say that was Pommer's fault because he put himself in a situation where he locked up and slid into Rosenqvist, discuss. Meantime, a black flag now for Pommer. He's already got the drive-through. He's made subsequent contact. It is a black flag. Jake Dennis, by the way, leads the race by 1.6 seconds and has done the fastest lap of the race. I told you Tatiana Calderon had come into the pit lane. She's gone on to slick tyres, so we'll see what further progress can be made, but she's going to be, of course, a long way down the order now.
It was a valiant effort, though, while it worked.
Absolutely right. And Tatiana led the race. First female leader we've had of an FIA Formula 3 European Championship race. First time she's led, and so there's an awful lot to take out of that, which has been good for a few laps of headline grabbing, and also from Tatiana's point of view, good for her, I think, to run at the front of the field and race with different people, and also to be in a situation where she was able to exploit a different tyre option for a few laps as well. So, all lively stuff. We're not done yet. We're not quite at the halfway point even. Over the timing line they will come very shortly, with Jake Dennis, the race leader, Charles Leclerc in second spot. The gap last time was 1.6 seconds. You've got to say that in this race, Jake Dennis looks the stronger. Into the pit lane comes Pommer. Whether he rejoins or not, we will wait and see. 2 seconds is the advantage. Dennis is pulling away from Leclerc. Marcus Pommer comes down the pit road. And I think I just saw the seatbelt come off. He stops. And that's it. Out of the car he gets. And Marcus Pommer is frustrated and said, why? What? And the team explain the situation. But Marcus Pommer certainly doesn't feel as though anything was his fault. But this was the final straw. He'd already been given a drive-through, remember, and then he locks up, slides wide, and contact with Felix Rosenqvist. So that's what did for Marcus Pommer, effectively excluded from the race. Prevented from rejoining. Now, meantime, Dave.
Race leader.
Oh, yes.
Jake Dennis.
Do share.
Who, some 2 second advantage he has over Charles Leclerc. So Jake Dennis leading the race then. Leclerc is P2. Giovinazzi P3. Illett, Russell and Rosenqvist, as you can see on screen. So Jake Dennis then, the Racing Steps Foundation driver, then leads this race. And through everything that's gone on here, so we see damage on the Giovinazzi car. Everything that we've seen gone on here at the Spa circuit for FIA Formula 3 European Championship. The one beneficiary of it all is Jake Dennis, to be fair.
It's going to help him in the championship, isn't it, this?
Yeah.
Because Jake had a sort of up and down start to the season. He was 4th coming into this race, and if he can hang on in there and outscore Rosenqvist and Giovinazzi and Leclerc, that will help him massively. That damage on Giovinazzi's car came with that little moment with Tatiana Calderon going out of Eau Rouge. Remember when he had to go wide because he had the speed and she didn't. It's not going to help Giovinazzi, that is for sure, but he's running well in 3rd place, and that's a pretty decent result, isn't it? It's a good save, bearing in mind that Giovinazzi was not that well placed on the grid, so he's worked his way up from 14th spot to run in 3rd. Callum Illett having the race of the season for him. He's running in 4th place at the moment. His best prior to the weekend had been a 5th, and there is a meatball flag now being shown to Giovinazzi. So that is another blow, because that means they're going to want him in to sort out that aerodynamic deficiency the car now has, and you know what that means? He's going to go tumbling down the order. And there are only now 5 laps to go and 6 minutes. Oh, Giovinazzi Another problem for him. Now George Russell gets up with teammate Callum Illett, who runs wide at Lecombe and scrabbles over the curb on the runoff area. So that puts George Russell up to 4th, and he's going to inherit 3rd because of Giovinazzi's woes. So that's going to be a real shuffle of the Carlin mob, isn't it? George Russell started 21st on the grid, and he's about to bag 3rd place once Giovinazzi has to worry about the damage to the wing. Now, it might be that the Carlin team is busy arguing with the scrutineers to say, oh, it's OK, can we leave him out? Do we have to bring him in? We'll see what the outcome is. But for now, Giovinazzi presses on. There are 5 laps to go and 5 minutes, and it's going to be time, not laps. It's going to go to the 5 minutes that we have still on the clock. I do wish we could have more Formula 3 at Spa, because it doesn't half deliver cracking racing, and 3 races with so much to talk about. It's at times like this, as you see the nose cone for Giovinazzi, and therefore he's going to drop down the order. It's at times like this that you sympathise with journalists that have a word count, because they've got an awful lot to cram in. Right, Giovinazzi is heading for the pit lane. That means that George Russell is heading for the podium, unless there's another sting in the tail of this race.
Which, with 4.5 minutes still to go, is possible.
But this was the weekend for Giovinazzi that promised so much, and it's going to deliver. 2/5 is not a great deal, isn't it? Because of all the problems he had in race 1, the potential problems in this 3rd race. I say potential because he's not yet come in, he's staying out. Charles Leclerc, incidentally, has just done the fastest lap of the race. And what that means is the gap has come down, of course, between him and Jake Dennis, the race leader. So we're not necessarily done at the pointy end of the field. It's still Prema versus Van Amersfoort. Dennis ahead of Leclerc.
So there, we watch the race leader go through. There is P2. Then the damaged at the front, Giovinazzi. And there is the team standing by with a new nose for it. But it chose not to come in on that occasion. And you can see it wobbling about there as we get that long shot as we follow the race leader, and there is P2 through. And now there is the damage to the Giovinazzi car.
It's one to discuss with officials, but I wouldn't have thought that necessarily needed the guy to be brought into the pit lane. I know it happened for Kamara earlier on in the race, but actually it doesn't look like it's about to fall off.
I think it would have fallen off if it was going to, wouldn't it?
But exactly, and it's not actually affecting his lap times too much. I mean, you know, he's not being reeled in by George Russell. Giovinazzi is coping with the problem well enough. I understand that safety is important, but actually...
Is the argument not, though, if he were to just curb it and, you know, just a little jolt would further damage it, and then it could come off, and then it could cause problems, therefore playing safety, who knows?
Who would be a race director, because you have all of these calls to make. I mean, it is wobbly, there's no argument about that, but you know, I've seen cars with worse continue in other races. Anyway, it's down to the race director. And the black and orange flag has been shown. Two and a half minutes remain, so it's going to be this lap and one more. And the race leader, Jake Dennis, is about to start then, lap number 14. And we've now got less than a lap time left in the race as the leaders work their way up towards the bus stop. And you can see that gap is coming down. Charles Leclerc has by no means given up, has he? There is Giovinazzi in 3rd spot. I have to confess, if I were Carlin, I'd have told him to stay out and argue about it later. But he comes in this time, and so Giovinazzi's race is ruined, isn't it? Because by the time he gets back out, he'll be way down the field with precious little chance of gaining many places.
So in there, the Antonio Giovinazzi car. Seen the team standing by with that nose.
Just before you describe the stop for us, Dave, let me tell you that the lead gap has gone from 2 seconds to 1.3. So it's down by 0.7 of a second. Leclerc's having a last go. OK, so the team's set to work. And that nose is changed. Futile, really, because we are on the final lap. And Leclerc is reeling Jake Dennis in. This isn't all over yet, David Addison. Absolutely not. Now, what we need to start looking at just quickly are sector times, because they've just got to the end of the first sector on the lap. And there you can see to the eye the gap has come down. Actually, it's only been pulled back by a couple of tenths. But when your starting point is a fairly modest advantage, those 2 tenths are going to really matter. And so now Charles Leclerc storms off downhill. Sam McLeod, incidentally, from last on the grid, has just done the absolute best sector 1 time, and he's up into 12th place. He's out of the points, though, at the moment. Down the hill they come. Another star of this race, Alex Albon. We've hardly talked about him, but he started 28th, and he's up into the top 10, and therefore gets a point. And he had a spin at the very start, so it's been a remarkable recovery as the leaders then work their way through the pith path. I reckon that Leclerc is going to be up with Jake Dennis come the end, but he might need one more lap unless he is really brave on the run down towards the bus stop. But Charles Leclerc does drive with intelligence, and he will realise that for the sake of the extra points versus the risk of going off, might be worth just being a bit more discreet. He's taken another 3/10ths out, look, in this middle sector, as now the cars work their way up towards Blanchimont for the final time. It looks as though Jake Dennis might be on for a second win of the weekend, a 4th of the season, but it's not going to be by much, is it? As Charles Leclerc is closing all the time. Has Jake Dennis got enough in hand? He's got to be error-free through the bus stop. Leclerc really does break late and arrive on his tail, but Jake Dennis is going to hang on in there. Jake Dennis wins race 3 at Spa. Over the line he comes to fend off Charles Leclerc. Prema defeats Van Amersfoort by only 0.8 of a second. 3rd place goes to George Russell. He'll be well chuffed to be back on an overall podium. Rookie placing yesterday on the podium. Callum Ilott 4th, his best finish of the year. And Felix Rosenqvist ends up in 5th and did the fastest lap of the race on the very last lap as well. Brandon Maisano is 6th. Alessio Lorandi is 7th. Max Günther is 8th. Alex Albon is 9th because of Giovinazzi's pit stop. 10th in the points is Pietro Fittipaldi. 11th is Sam McLeod. 12th after a spin. 12th after a spin, Santino Ferrucci. 13th after a spin, Dorian Boccolacci. 14th after a spin, there's a funny echo here, is Ryan Twitter. And 15th after a pit stop is Antonio Giovinazzi. 16th goes the way of Arjun Maini. 17th across the line, Martin Chow, and then it should be Tatiana Calderon to come through next, and she is 18th in the end. Poor reward, you could argue, but she led the race and certainly grabbed the headlines with some good racecraft. Wow, Formula 3 at Spa ticks every box, doesn't it? And it's such a shame that it's only one visit a year to this fabulous circuit. And if ever you think Formula 3 is boring, come here and just watch Formula 3 at its ultimate best. Fantastic trio of races. Forget all the incidents for a moment and just consider what we've witnessed in terms of the actual racing. And yet again, so much to talk about, so much to look back on. The highlights reel may well take most of Sunday afternoon after this weekend. But Jake Dennis is the man of the moment. He said yesterday, because he really inherited the win because of an accident, and as soon as he got into the lead, we went safety car, and that took us to the checkered flag. He didn't really feel like he deserved the win yesterday, but he said, I'll take it nonetheless. But he deserved that one, no question.
Well, there we see Jake Dennis.
Charles Leclerc, more points. And this has been a very important weekend for Charles. Remember, it was here last year that Max Verstappen's season really turned itself around because of the 3 wins. It's a bit different for Charles Leclerc because it's not about him winning, it's about others losing points. But it's still pivotal.
The point you made, although he was really having a go at Jake through that bus stop, the point you make is Charles' intelligence of, you know, for the sake of a point, I'm going to bank this. I'm going to be better off for so doing, rather than risk. It's the, it's the risk-benefit gamble, and he knew what to do.
Indeed so. Well, there is Charles Leclerc, the championship leader, takes 2nd place in the race, and the Richard Mille-sponsored driver lost out by 0.8 of a second to this man, Jake Dennis. As you see on the side of the car, he's part of the Racing Steps Foundation. He's also part of the BRDC Superstars programme to nurture young British talent. You've seen young British talent come out on top with 2 wins this weekend. Jake Dennis, the winner, ahead of Charles Leclerc and then George Russell. Callum Ilott 4th, ahead of Felix Rosenqvist and Brandon Maisano. Alessio Lorandi ahead of Max Günther. Alex Albon, after his spin, bags 9th, and Pietro Fittipaldi rounds out those that will score points.
Felix Rosenqvist, what, you said it, weekend of woe.
I don't know what happened to Felix in an earlier life, whether he walked under lots of ladders or broke lots of windows or was rude to a nun or whatever it was, but the luck, the only luck he has is bad luck. You know, Monza, he wins 3 races, 2 of which only get half points. He comes here, he's up in the leading group in most of the racing, and again, he gets involved in incidents not of his making that cost him places, cost him points, cost him finishes. The rest of the order scrolls through with almost everybody with a story to tell after another very eventful third race. And yes, as we have made the point round by round, Dave, this is a crucial...